Displacement, 2,252 tons, length, 327 feet, beam, 41 feet, draft, 12.5 feet, propulsion, 2 oil-fueled Babcock and Wilcox boilers, 2 Westinghouse-geared turbines, 2 propellers, 6,200 shaft horsepower, speed, 20 knots, range, 12,300 nautical miles, crew, 125. With the exception of Hamilton, which was torpedoed and sunk 10 miles off Iceland January 29, 1942, all of the Treasury-class ships led very long lives. Bibb and Duane were sunk as artificial reefs off the coast of Florida in 1987. Campbell was sunk by the U.S. Navy as a dummy ship on November 29, 1984. Spencer was sold October 8, 1981 for scrap. Taney is currently a museum ship at the Baltimore Maritime Museum. Ingham is part of the Key West Maritime Museum in Key West, Florida. Bibb saw service in World War II. The ship fought in the Battle of the Atlantic serving as a convoy escort. In February 1943, the convoy came under attack and the SS Henry R. Mallory was torpedoed. Captain Rainey ignored the order to leave the survivors and went back and rescued 202 men from the icy waters. In 1944, Bibb provided convoy escort between the United States and North Africa, mainly to Bizerte in Tunisia. In January 1945, Bibb left Charleston, South Carolina for service in the Pacific Theater where, as an AGC, she served temporarily as the flagship for Commander, Minecraft, Pacific Fleet. Bibb is credited with destroying 1 Japanese kamikaze aircraft in action at Karema-Redo. In peacetime, the Bibb spent time on Ocean Station providing weather information and beacons to transatlantic traffic. While on Ocean Station, the Bibb came to the rescue of the airliner, the Bermuda Sky Queen. During her 10-month deployment in Vietnam, she cruised approximately 68,680 miles and was underway for 75% of the time she was deployed. Her deployment summary noted, she met every operational commitment, never causing any delays and frequently being extended on patrols due to her high state of operational readiness. Once in South Vietnamese waters, she operated under the cruiser-destroyer group of the U.S. 7th Fleet as a part of Coast Guard Squadron 3. Her task was to prevent the infiltration of arms, ammunition, and supplies to communist forces in South Vietnam by stopping, boarding and searching vessels in her area of operation. During Vietnam patrols, she undertook 31 naval gunfire support missions in support of Vietnamese regional forces, amphibious assault, U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, Army and Marine Corps operations primarily into enemy-controlled areas of the Mekong Delta. During these missions, she fired 2,760 rounds from her 5-inch 38 main battery, destroying 30 structures, 11 sampans, and 4 bunkers, while damaging 145 structures, 11 sampans and 4 bunkers, killing 3 and wounding 30 of the enemy. She also caused 11 secondary fires and 3 secondary explosions. On February 21, 1943, Campbell was escorting the 48-ship convoy when the convoy was surrounded by a U-boat wolf pack. U-92 and U-753 torpedoed and sank a whale factory ship. Dispatched to assist, Campbell rescued 50 survivors and then turned to attack the U-753, damaging it so badly that it had to withdraw. Throughout 21 and 22 of February, Campbell attacked several U-boats, inflicting damage and driving off the subs. On 22 of February, U-606, having sustained heavy damage inflicted by the Polish destroyer ORP Berza, surfaced in the midst of the convoy, tempting a surface attack. Campbell struck the sub a glancing blow that gashed Campbell's hull in the engine room below the waterline, but Campbell continued to attack, dropping 2 depth charges which exploded and lifted the sub out of the water. The crew brought all guns to bear on the subs, fighting on until water in the engine room shorted out all electricity. The U-boat commander ordered the sub abandoned. Campbell ceased fire and lowered boats to rescue the sub's survivors. Campbell, disabled in the attack, was towed to port 9 days later, repaired and returned to escort duty. Campbell was assigned to combat duty in Vietnam from January to July 1968. During Operation Market Time, Campbell destroyed or damaged 105 Viet Cong structures and steamed over 32,000 miles in the Vietnamese war zone. After returning from Vietnam, Campbell was assigned to routine search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, military readiness, and ocean station duties. Duane was then assigned to weather patrols in the mid-Atlantic, and also carried out a survey of the western coast of Greenland in mid-1940. In late 1940 she was fitted with additional armaments, receiving anti-aircraft and anti-submarine weapons. On June 14, 1941 she rescued 46 survivors from the British tanker Treasury-class, which had been sunk by U-77. She was assigned to permanent duty with the U.S. Navy on September 11, 1941, and was designated WPG-33. On April 1, 1942, the Duane was reassigned from weather patrols to convoy escort duty during the Battle of the Atlantic. Duane was converted to an Combined Operations Communications Headquarters ship in 1944. Upon completion, she was to have been taken over by the Navy and assigned the hull number AGC-6. However, this plan was dropped and she was retained for Coast Guard service. Duane was attached to the 8th Amphibious Force in the Mediterranean Sea and took part in Operation Dragoon, the invasion of southern France, in August 1944. She remained in the Mediterranean until July 1945, when she returned to the United States and reverted to her previous designation, WPG-33. The Ocean Weather Station program was permanently established by multinational agreements soon after the end of World War II. The Coast Guard was then assigned the duty of manning those stations for which the U.S. accepted responsibility. On December 4, 1967, Duane was assigned to Coast Guard Squadron 3 off the coast of Vietnam, where she served as the flagship for Coast Guard Squadron. Ingham served with distinction during World War II on convoy duty. Protecting ships ferrying vital supplies to Britain, Ingham battled stormy weather, German U-boats, and enemy aircraft. On December 15, 1942, during one crossing, Ingham engaged and sank the enemy submarine U-626. After 1944, Ingham served as an amphibious flagship and she would later take part in 3 campaigns in the Pacific Theater. Ingham was the last active warship in the U.S. fleet with a U-boat kill. Ingham earned 2 Presidential Unit citations for her service in Operation Sea Lords and Operation Swift Raider during the Vietnam War on a deployment from August 3, 1968 to February 28, 1969. On completion of her deployment to Vietnam, Ingham returned to regular Coast Guard duties, serving until 1988 when she was decommissioned. When the United States entered World War II, the Coast Guard temporarily became part of the United States Navy. Spencer saw service in the Pacific War. During the Battle of Atlantic, she acted as a convoy escort, hunting German U-boats, and was responsible for sinking U-175 in 1943. After the war, Spencer returned to her Coast Guard duties, serving in the Atlantic Ocean. Here she provided navigational assistance for the fledgling transatlantic air industry and acted as a search and rescue platform for both ships and airplanes. She returned to combat duty off the Vietnam coast in February 1969. For 10 months, she carried out surveillance to prevent troops and supplies from getting into South Vietnam. She detected over 4,200 suspicious vessels and craft, closely monitored the movement of more than 1,320 of them, and boarded 27 vessels to inspect of both their cargo and crew. Spencer detained 52 enemy suspects and turned them over to the South Vietnamese military for questioning. She also executed 13 naval gunfire missions in support of operations on land, destroying or damaging over 160 enemy structures, bunkers, and base camps. Spencer left Vietnam at the end of September and returned to the United States. For the next 5 years, Spencer continued her peacetime mission of ocean station keeping. The message Air Raid, Pearl Harbor. This is no drill came at 7:55 on December 7, 1941, as Japanese planes swept overhead in an attempt to cripple the Pacific Fleet. Taney, moored alongside Pier 6, Honolulu Harbor, manned her anti-aircraft guns within 4 minutes. The ship got underway at 0546 on December 8 to patrol the harbor approaches, making 7 sound contacts and dropping depth charges during the patrol that ended on 14 December. Taney patrolled the waters off Honolulu for the remainder of 1941 and into 1942, conducting many depth charge attacks on suspected submarines in the wake of the Pearl Harbor attack. Taney operated locally out of Honolulu into 1943 before sailing for late that winter. After making port at Boston on March 14, 1944, soon shifted south to Hampton Roads, where she arrived on March 31, 1944. Early in April, she departed Norfolk as a unit of Task Force 66 as convoy guide for convoy. The passage across the Atlantic proved uneventful, as the convoy made landfall off the Azores on April 13, 1944. Some 35 minutes after sunset on April 20, 1944, however, the convoy was spotted and tracked by the Germans, who launched a 3-pronged attack. The first wave struck from dead ahead, torpedoing SS Paul Hamilton and SS Samite. The former, which had been carrying both a load of ammunition and hundreds of Army Air Force personnel, blew up in a shattering explosion, killing all 504 men on board. The second wave of German torpedo planes hit the SS Stephen F. Austin and SS Royal Star. During this melee, 2 torpedoes churned past close aboard. The third wave mortally wounded USS Lansdale, which later sank. All of the damaged vessels, save Paul Hamilton and Lansdale, reached Bizerte, Tunisia, on April 21, 1944. Taney later departed Bizerte with homeward-bound convoy and arrived at New York City on May 21, 1944. Taney participated in 2 more round-trip convoy escort missions. In 1969, ordered for duty with Coast Guard Squadron 3, which was supporting the Navy's Operation Market Time patrols off the coast of Vietnam. She departed U.S. waters in April 1969 and arrived in theater on May 14, 1969, and she served in the area until January 31, 1970. During her tour of duty, Taney steamed for over 52,000 miles, 84,000 kilometers, and inspected over 1,000 vessels. She participated in dozens of naval gunfire support missions, firing more than 3,400 5-inch shells at Viet Cong positions. Her medical staff also treated over 6,000 Vietnamese villagers. After returning to U.S. waters, she once again began serving on ocean stations. In February 1972, Taney was shifted back to the East Coast and was home-ported at Norfolk. From 2 September 1972 to 23 September 1972, she served on ocean stations. The Hamilton was built at the New York Navy Yard for the U.S. Coast Guard. Her keel was laid on September 11, 1935, and she was launched on January 6, 1937. On January 29, 1942, the Hamilton was torpedoed on the starboard side by the German submarine U-132, which had been patrolling the Icelandic coast near Reykjavik. The explosion killed 20 men instantly, and the total death toll was 26. After she capsized on January 30th, salvage attempts were abandoned and the American destroyer USS Erickson fired upon the wreck 3 times to send her to the bottom of the sea, 28 miles from the coast. On August 19, 2009, the Icelandic Coast Guard discovered a shipwreck believed to be the Hamilton. She was positively identified using the technology of an autonomous underwater vehicle. On the 26th of June, 2011, a team of divers including Team Blue Immersion's Jonas Samuelsson, Aaron Arngrimsson and Valgeir Pettersson left Reykjavik at 5 a.m. departing for Alexander Hamilton wreck. At 30 miles out and 95 meters down, the wreck lies upside down. This is the first dive team that ever dived this wreck. The dive went without any problems and the conditions were better than expected. The sea at the surface was pretty rough, and most warned not to take the boat out, saying the dive was impossible to conduct under current conditions. Visibility at the wreck was around 4 meters. Temperature was 7 degrees Celsius at 90 meters, which was warmer than divers prepared for. During the deep dive, the divers set 3 Icelandic diving records: deepest wreck dive in Iceland, deepest sea dive in Iceland, and deepest dive ever made in Iceland.